Good evening, I'm Greg McCarthy, co-chair along with Charles Devine of our first virtual fundraiser for CIVITAS.
Thank you for joining us this evening. We have a wonderful evening planned for you. You'll be hearing from 5 of our fellow board members as we discuss some of the key initiatives that CIVITAS is currently involved in.
You'll also hear from Donna and Marvin Schwartz on what inspired them to replace this wonderful fence that's around the Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis Reservoir.
And you'll be listening to a tantalizing interview with Deborah Burke, the Dean of the Yale School of Architecture, as she discusses how COVID has impacted the working from home design of offices and residential spaces.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Rice, co-chair of CIVITAS. CIVITAS was founded in 1981 by August Heckscher, Frank Lichtensteiger, and me, and is famous for first evers. We were the first ever organization to have 12 illegal stories taken off a building. In 1991, CIVITAS, joined by other New York City organizations, won a lawsuit and forced the developer to remove the illegal stories from 108 East 96th Street. It was a zoning solution for a zoning violation, no deals. In 1986, CIVITAS made its case for rezoning in the video No More Tall Stories, narrated by Paul Newman. As a result, zoning was changed on the Upper East Side and in East Harlem. The goal was to create smart growth, which included contextual buildings, affordable housing, and user-friendly streets. Since then, CIVITAS has been a leader in improving transportation, street safety, rapid bus service, 2nd Avenue subway plans, as well as open space, including visions for the East River Esplanade. CIVITAS's ABC of Zoning, written by and illustrated by Jack Huberman, is still a very valuable resource some 30 years later. You will hear from other speakers about our continued work with building height limits and infrastructure issues. In fact, CIVITAS is getting recognition around the world. We just agreed to allow our group to use our video to help them preserve zoning in Paris. As our founder, August Heckscher, wrote, "Works which are truly public are comparatively few, but they're very precious and the source of much that is enjoyable in the common life. They comprise those things which make good neighbors and a sense of roots, which remind us that we are one with other generations and give us peace in surroundings that keep the spirit whole." Since 2001, CIVITAS has presented the August Heckscher Award in honor of community service. We are thrilled by this year's honorees, as well as special mom and pop businesses which are under assault in this COVID world. We thank Greg McCarthy and Charles Devine for their leadership in creating this benefit. It is clear that our neighborhoods and our cities need organizations like CIVITAS now more than ever. We need union more than ever. This organization has represented its name, Union of Citizens, for close to 40 years. Thank you for continuing to join us in supporting CIVITAS, and so doing, supporting the important role that grassroots organizations play in creating the fabric of the wonderful city that is New York. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Jim Tripp. I am a vice president of the board of CIVITAS. CIVITAS, together with the Municipal Art Society, Carnegie Hill Neighbors, and Friends of the Upper East Side, has been embroiled in a legal battle against the City of New York for almost 3 years over the status and fate of Marx Brothers Playground. The Marx Brothers Playground is a 1.5-acre park that occupies the western half of the block bounded by 1st and 2nd Avenues and 96th and 97th Street. Close to where Groucho Marx and his 3 brothers grew up. Marx Brothers Playground is classified as a jointly owned playground under the control of the City Department of Parks and the Department of Education. Going against decades of precedent, the city has asserted incorrectly that Marx Brothers Playground is not protected parkland. The city asserts, in effect, that it is free to obliterate the playground and to zone and use the land as it wishes, allowing the transfer of air rights it has assigned to it to a private developer. The state court in mid-2019 agreed with CIVITAS and the other civic organization that Marx Brothers Playground is protected parkland, a hugely significant finding, but also found that the city had complied with ULURP and the state alienation process, backed by an adequate environmental impact statement. We have appealed. Oral argument is set for the afternoon of October 27th at 2 p.m. In our view, in addition to seeking confirmation from the appellate division that Marx Brothers Playground is protected parkland, we are arguing that the city has not complied with, and indeed cannot comply with, a provision of the state alienation legislation that requires that the city replace Marx Brothers Playground with new protected parkland or make a comparable investment in existing parkland that it had otherwise not planned to do. While this fight is centered on the Marx Brothers Playground, its outcome will affect the status of each of the 269 jointly owned playgrounds in Manhattan and the rest of the city of New York. The city would have license to eliminate these playgrounds at any time. It is critical that we not let the city deprive community residents of this irreplaceable recreational parkland in a neighborhood short of parkland. That is why CIVITAS is deeply engaged in this battle. And I want to thank you personally, all of you, for participating in this Zoom-focused benefit. But I've been on the board of CIVITAS since the early 1980s and consider it to be a hugely important organization, civic organization for our greater neighborhood. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Bill Bateson, CIVITAS volunteer and board member since 2011. Welcome to the benefit and thank you for coming tonight. Since 2012, CIVITAS has worked to solicit community support and to fund professional guidance for an improved East River Esplanade. Our work started with a 2012 Design Concepts competition, which elicited designs from 25 designers in 25 different countries. These included the whimsical and inspiring and the more practical. The following years, CIVITAS hired Matthews Nielsen landscape architects to help mediate community visioning sessions where residents could voice their concerns and their hopes and their priorities for their Esplanade. Afterwards, CIVITAS commissioned a 30-page design study of the Esplanade, replete with explanations of the structural repair challenges and suggestions for improved lighting, seating, shading, landscaping. Because 30% of the design entries mentioned it, and hurricane flooding could be reduced by it, CIVITAS has also worked with the Harbor School to investigate possible conditions for an ecological edge along the existing Esplanade. The vision report from Matthews Nielsen showed several good depictions of this idea: a complex ecological edge with restored ecosystem to provide storm protection and the beauty of natural tidal habitat with varied plant life, shellfish, rock formations, and possibly birds, all visible from the Esplanade. Today, CIVITAS is preparing to start a new round of work with the community and the city to raise awareness and funding for the rebuilding of the pier at 107th Street, for an ecological edge, and for community gardens and other improvements. One of the long-term fundraising goals would be to raise money for a study of ecological edge designs by McLaren Engineering. They are a well-known engineering firm with diverse experience, which includes an artificial salt marsh design for the Baltimore Aquarium. McLaren Engineering has also proposed a structural design for the rebuilding of the pier at 107th Street, if CIVITAS can raise money for the initial drawings. Also, if funding is available, CIVITAS will work with Parks Department to design and implement a series of stations for potable water. Among other uses, potable water would enable community gardens. The vibrant and thriving flower beds seen just near the transfer station in the last few years, tended by volunteers, would be an example of community gardens. With help from our supporters, CIVITAS will reinvigorate and build on our earlier efforts to promote an improved and more vibrant Esplanade, a place for biking as well as reading, sunbathing, family gatherings, and fishing. As the city is expected to begin major repairs in the next few years, CIVITAS expects to remain engaged to ensure this critical and underserved waterfront will become the green, healthy, structurally sound, and well-lit and welcoming place it should be. Thank you very much.
My name is Sava Thomas. I have been a proud member of the CIVITAS Board of Directors for over 20 years. 4 years ago, upon observing how small businesses were disappearing from our neighborhoods and thus impacting the quality of life of its residents, Jeannie Rice, Jean McEnany, and I recommended to the Board of CIVITAS to bring this serious problem to the top of the organization's agenda. Since then, CIVITAS has established a close relationship with the mom and pop stores and restaurants in our neighborhood, and many of them have been honored at our annual benefits. The pandemic, of course, has created a more stressful situation, and they need all our support. In this evening of celebration, I would like to offer a toast to these extraordinary businesses which not only have given New York City its unique character, but have provided safety and an important source of employment to its residents. Cheers.
Pescatore, a classic Italian eatery and wine bar with a hearty menu, lively happy hour, and friendly staff. Perfect for lunch, aperitivo, dinner, or a final. Lexington Candy Shop, New York's original soda fountain. Visit for malted milkshakes, omelets, burgers, and pie a la mode. This vintage NYC luncheonette has served locals for 95 years. El Callejon. Welcome to your new favorite Mexican cantina on 117th Street. Stop by for authentic, tasty flatbreads, tapas, and artisanal cocktails. Dominican Academy, the only all-honors high school for girls in New York State with a supportive, familial atmosphere that challenges and empowers young women to be leaders in the 21st century. J.G. Mellon, known for its famously juicy hamburgers, cottage fries, and Bloody Marys, visit this Upper East Side pub for an amazing burger, lively scene, and lots of Mellon art. Leonard's, proud purveyors of the freshest seafood and highest quality meats, poultry, pork, and veal, John and Peter Leonard continue to offer the best of surf and turf. Lloyd's Carrot Cake, famous carrot cakes and delicious desserts including chocolate, red velvet, and coconut cakes, plus muffins, pies, and cupcakes. A host of tri-state restaurants carry all of Lloyd's baked goods. Paul Mole, considered New York City's first barbershop, Paul Mole has kept generations of gentlemen well-groomed since 1913. Services include haircut, beard trim, hot leather shave, and manicure. Stribling at Compass. For best-in-class service and knowledge of the real estate market, turn to Compass, where buyers and sellers experience unparalleled real estate marketing, support, and technology. Sam Shoe Repair. Since 1981, Sam has satisfied customers with quality repairs. Visit Sam's shop for footwear, handbag, and accessory rejuvenation, including resoling, cleaning, resurfacing, and more. Utapal. Known for exquisite women's fashions, Utapal is a designer, Madison Avenue boutique owner, and luxury retailer. For beautiful collections that define style and elegance, head to utapal.com. William Pohl. Manhattan's choice for decadent European gourmet and specialty foods, including chef's dinners, salads, hors d'oeuvres, tea sandwiches, and desserts. The Dream Charter School. Founded in 2008 and serving young scholars pre-K through high school, the school empowers students to recognize their potential and realize their dreams. Ottomanelli Brothers, distinct purveyors of fine food, will have you thinking about a gorgeous cut of USDA prime beef, fresh poultry, lamb, pork, or their daily made entrees.
I'm Robin Rivera, co-treasurer of CIVITAS, and it is my pleasure to congratulate Uptown Grand Central on receiving our first ever Community Heroes Award. Under the passionate leadership of Carrie King, your work to support, strengthen, and showcase all that is grand about East Harlem, from its restaurants and other small businesses to its vibrant art and traditions, is beyond inspiring. We especially praise your goal to transform the East 125th Street corridor by putting advocacy into action. For more information and updates, please check out their website, www.uptowngrandcentral.org.
I'm Jean McEnany, and I've been a member of the board of CIVITAS for almost 40 years. Since its founding in 1981, CIVITAS has been concerned with neighborhoods, context and character of neighborhood buildings, and heights. As part of the renovation and expansion of Lenox Hill Hospital, its parent company, Northwell Health, has advanced a proposal that included 2 500-feet towers, one on Lexington Avenue and one on Park Avenue at 76th Street, both in violation of current zoning laws which CIVITAS helped to enact. Recently, the design team of Lenox Hill Hospital has announced that the Park Avenue tower has been removed from the proposal. However, the Lexington Avenue tower remains at more than twice the allowed height limit. In response to grave concerns raised by the prospect of this expansion, CIVITAS presented its statement at a meeting of the Zoning Committee of the Community Board 8, in which we stated, "While we appreciate Lenox Hill Hospital as an institution and its need to expand and update its facilities, we cannot support its out-of-scale and excessive plans. We urge the hospital to reconsider and scale back its proposal to be responsibly compatible with a unique part of New York. We are working closely with the Committee to Save Our Lenox Hill Neighborhood, Friends of the Upper East Side, Carnegie Hill Neighbors, Landmarks Conservancy, and Community Board 8 in this battle to protect our building height limits and sensible zoning in this crowded neighborhood." We are grateful to Council Member Keith Powers and Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer for continuing to urge significant changes in the plans for the renovation, and we are pleased to join Manhattan Borough President's task force to ensure that Northwell's proposal will be further scaled back to align with its site's zoning laws. Thank you so much for joining us on this virtual benefit for CIVITAS. We are sorry we can't be together, but we enjoy your support and we hope to see you again soon.
Hi, I'm Ward Williams, and I've been part of CIVITAS for over 2 years now. As we all know, CIVITAS is committed to maintaining the urban fabric of New York City, specifically parts of the Upper East Side and East Harlem. That includes, but does not end with, concerns over things like building height that affect our sense of space and place. The following clip, although over 30 years old, is still pertinent today. In it, Paul Newman was so moved by CIVITAS's message that he agreed to make the film No More Tall Stories, a project he produced pro bono with his director. The message is as important now as it was then. Please enjoy.
We know there's a housing shortage. We don't want the moon, but we do want the sun shining down on us. We want an open sky. We want a friendly wind. We want the street to remain a place to relax and watch the world go by. We want to keep window shopping, cafe life, and familiar shopkeepers. We don't want to lose the barbers, the Chinese takeouts, Korean markets, the pizza parlors that make the neighborhood work. Current zoning allows developers to bite off chunks of history and replace them with monotonous high-rises that have no relationship to the neighborhood. We have already lost a lot of time and a lot of ground. Let's not lose any more.
Good evening. I'm Sharon Pope Marshall, and along with architect Bill Brothers, we co-chair CIVITAS's Land Use Committee. Thank you for joining us during what surely is one of the most unprecedented and challenging times facing our city and our beloved neighborhoods of El Barrio, East Harlem, where I am now, and the Upper East Side. Yet this period also affords us an unique opportunity to reaffirm our steadfast commitment to protecting our neighborhood's built context, character, and quality of life. CIVITAS bristled with the construction of each new high-rise building on our grand avenues that was not consistent with the underlying zoning regulations and not architecturally sympathetic to our community's existing built character. Those buildings were made substantially taller by the manipulation of zoning loopholes. Through the community's valiant efforts, those loopholes were partially closed. Indeed, a battle was won. However, CIVITAS has a height limit proposal that can win the war against out-of-scale buildings. We seek to limit building heights in the C19 zoning districts along 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Avenues, all of which do not currently have building height limits. Our proposal does not reduce density, but rather it shapes the building's mass into a defined contextual envelope with consistent street walls and predictable building heights. Nor does our proposal limit or impede development. Rather, it promotes and supports new development that addresses our community's immediate and long-term needs. CIVITAS's proposal mixes vision with pragmatism and adds a dash of chutzpah. We need your partnership and participation to codify building height limits. Despite these arduous times, and perhaps because of them, together we must protect our historical sense of place, human-scaled public realm, and with reverence protect its built character. Never have our communities needed your vision, your pragmatism, and chutzpah more. Thank you.
And now's the part of the evening that you've all been waiting for. I'm going to answer your question about how you can financially support CIVITAS so that CIVITAS can continue to work assiduously to make our Upper East Side and Harlem neighborhoods more livable. I want you to know about one important point. How does CIVITAS spend its money? Well, other than for a part-time executive director, we all work as volunteers. All of CIVITAS's expenses go to pay for expert studies like zoning improvements to keep our neighborhoods vibrant and livable. And the expenses go to pay heavily discounted fees to expert lawyers who shepherd solutions to neighborhood concerns through the maze that we call government, like saving the Marx Brothers Playground on 96th Street. The CIVITAS Board and CIVITAS's active members give freely of their time and effort to make our neighborhood better. So, if you want a dedicated, enthusiastic group of people to keep working pro bono free for you, please donate to CIVITAS. We have to pay those experts and attorneys to beat the bureaucracy into making our neighborhoods a better place in which to live. Come on, donate $100 or whatever you can to enable CIVITAS to continue to work and, yes, even fight to make our neighborhood great again. CIVITAS, we're holding the fort. Send a donation, please. Online, go to CIVITAS NYC. Donate via Visa, MasterCard, or a check. It's tax deductible. In advance, I thank you.
So we are excited and honored to have Marvin and Donna Schwartz as this year's recipient of the August Heckscher Founder Award, and we welcome them to CIVITAS. Tell us about your involvement with the fence around the Jacqueline Onassis Reservoir.
Donna and I have been interested in philanthropy, but primarily in terms of doing things that are very specific. So we thought it would be nice if Central Park had its original fence restored in its, or as close to its original condition as possible.
In walking across the park on those beautiful days, I would take the shortest route, which was right in front of me. I could enter the park right at 86th Street, and I'd walk along the running path along this beautiful reservoir. I always chose that route because it was so breathtakingly beautiful. And what did I see? I saw the chain link fence, and I said to myself, how can I see the ducks in the reservoir with this chain link fence? And it was very difficult, and it was very ugly. I decided one day, this was where the serendipity stuff comes in. I took this wonderful tree walk, and I was very attentive to the trees. I remember all the trees he even pointed out. I can remember them to this day. But more than that, behind me, little did I know, was somebody who was talking about a couple of guys who were talking, and I could hear what they were saying, and they were saying what they had pulled out of the reservoir. Well, you can only imagine. I never, first of all, knew that anybody had ever been in the reservoir, let alone gone scuba diving in the reservoir. So this was just absolutely dumbfounding to me. I couldn't believe my ears. Lo and behold, the drop-dead thing that he said was that we found a piece of the fence. Well, that was like an absolute bombshell went off.
Of the original fence.
The original fence.
That was put up, we believe, around the building of the fence, which I think was around 1865.
My late husband, George, and I lived on 96th and 5th, and every morning we would either jog or run around the reservoir. And because we were seeing lots of trash floating on the surface, tennis balls, frisbees, plastic bags, bottles, dead animals, we decided that we would like to do something to make it no longer an eyesore. And George was the type of guy that liked a lot of equipment. That's why he liked scuba diving, the tanks, the nets, everything. That was his type of activity. So we had a 7-foot Zodiac. We had lots of nets, long-handled, rakes. We said we would purchase anything that we needed if they would just let us go in through the South Pump House and start going around the surface of the reservoir to clean it up. And the first time we found a piece of the original fence, George knew immediately what it was. He says, this has to be the original fence. So we got it into our Zodiac, took it back to the South Pump House, and put it on a large table they had put there for us to be able to bring anything we found back so that it could be photographed. And what we noticed is that the fence disintegrated very quickly after being in the open air. So when we had brought another piece back, we had Sara Cedar Miller, the historian and photographer of the Conservancy, come and take a picture of it. Then she started her research to make sure that was what it actually was.
And then you were on the walk, the tour with Donna in Central Park with your husband when she was listening in on your conversation, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yes, actually, George was telling another walker on the tour about what we had done, and Donna, having such good ear strength, overheard part of the conversation. And that is what George, he just kept telling everybody about the fence. And Donna was the one with Marvin who stepped up to the plate, and they took it across the finish.
I don't remember the rest of the tree walk, but all I can remember is running home to Marvin and saying, this is something that is so extraordinary. I can't believe I heard what I heard. And lo and behold, I said to Marvin, I want to do something about this. I can't stand that now we have unlocked the secret. This This was the original fence that had been thrown in the reservoir.
And it was around the year 2001. And we told them that, in our opinion, it would be very nice if the park had its fence restored to its original condition. And we told them the story of how Donna went on the tree walk and how she met George Parry, and how he recounted to her how he dove down. He had the special permission, obviously, from the DEC, not to do any pleasurable scuba diving, but to do scuba diving with the purpose of researching part of the history of New York City. At any rate, they thought it was a terrific idea. They said that this is not something that they hadn't thought of on their own, but their problem was that they didn't have the finances. So we talked about it a few more times, and we asked them to look into what it would cost, which they did, how long it would take if we made a decision, go, no go. And lo and behold, we got involved with one of their engineers, their chief engineer, Chris Noland. And to the best of my knowledge, he's still involved as a chief engineer at the Central Park Conservancy. And we hit it off very well together, and he came back to us and came back with a series of plans and told us that they had chosen 3 foundries. They decided that they would build it as quickly and as efficiently as possible, and I think it took between 3 to 4 months.
What's the most important factor about the Schwartz's gift and the reservoir and the fence is the fact that it gave back 106 acres to Central Park that it simply didn't have. So although people could walk on the running track, run on the running track, later in life when running got popular, you never saw the landscape. And that's 106 acres. It is 1/8 of the park. And when the Schwartzes gave their gift and the fence was lowered, it added what people, including me, had never seen since before the 1920s. And the Schwartzes are an example of some of the most generous, absolutely generous people.
Good morning. Welcome to New Haven. My name's Stephen Lash. I'm a chairman of Christie's, the auction house, an alumnus of Yale, a Vincent Scully disciple. So the short message is I come to art through the back door of architecture. I'm also a disciple of Jeannie Rice, who has been a creative force behind CIVITAS for a long time, and we're here today to discuss the implications of the COVID virus for the design world. So, Deborah, can we lead off with you?
I'd be delighted and nice to see you, and welcome back to New Haven, where we are at Next Haven, an arts center here, artist residency program. So it's the appropriate tying together of art and architecture.
What do you see happening now in your world of design, both in the residential area and the commercial area, and what changes do you anticipate?
Why don't you start?
I thought we would start with the easy domain, and that would be residential, and then maybe move to why we're here at Next Haven, which would be to talk about public space and community engagement. But
right.
To kick it off, we do see changes coming to residential design. There are obvious ones to mention, like things people are doing with their apartments. Apartments are under greater need for a whole range of activities. Rooms now do double or triple purpose. And one of the interesting things we anticipate this leading to, paradoxically, is not in radical changes to apartment design, but maybe the way in which apartment buildings or places people share, like lobbies, hallways, vestibules, and sidewalks, becoming new grounds for design intervention.
Do you anticipate smaller private spaces and perhaps communal spaces in apartment buildings?
I think we do.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
It would be both a sensible thing to do and kind of much needed corrective for cities like New York, where we actually spend a lot of time together. And those spaces deserve and need design. And apartment building, to reduce it to the question of how might one change an apartment building, lobbies, reception spaces, where we get our mail, all need to be rethought, perhaps expanded, made it a little bit better.
What do you do with elevators, for example?
Encourage people to take the stairs, which would be a health benefit if one can look for an upside in this public health crisis. I think as we get towards cleaning and masks, we will work our way back, and it's not just elevators, but elevator lobbies and how we interact with each other. But I think your question leads to an interesting point about the short-term design, because we're not tearing down every building in New York and starting over. And much of this people are doing intuitively and very intelligently, which is switching your dining table from a workspace for 3 kids to a place where you can have a family dinner. You might do things as simple as flowers and candlesticks just to change it. But people don't need architects to do that. They need common sense and a will to sort of make better out of a bad situation. I think going forward in design of residential spaces, we will be thinking how rooms can be multi-used without changing their inherent character. And I think one more thing, we care a lot more about natural light.
Use of common facilities can now be parceled out over time. Mm-hmm. So maybe one's workday, or how we each think about our workday, might shift so that some of us go to work at 7 and some of us go to work at 9 and others return in a staggered fashion, so that use of these things we share can be parceled out over time.
And I can see schools adapting in the same way. I have a friend who's a very successful divorce lawyer, and he says he's doing record business. Now, what I'm dying to ask you is, do you foresee the need for an additional master bedroom in every apartment?
Bedrooms are certainly doing multiple duty now. My children use them like offices.
That's right.
So maybe.
And I would assume that the impact on conversions from commercial space to residential space is going to be even accelerated.
I think there's a question implied there that no one knows the answer to, and that is what to do with so many commercial spaces. Pressures on the workplace are new, but we don't all have to be there at the same time anymore. And offices are getting very facile with who works how and when, and do you get an office or are you hot desking? Do you use the focus room instead of a communal space? And how do we all share these facilities? And that's leading to less need for office space and leading to the question, what do we do with all of this commercial space? And conversions would be a very good thing.
But I think it's important to also remember that COVID won't be with us forever. We will see recurring, the health specialists have told us, we will see recurring outbreaks of pandemics, but we will edge back into life as we remember it, and we will bring with us what we've learned, which is that not everybody has to be in the office at the same time, not everybody has to commute at the same time. So we're going to come out of this, I think, with a hybrid that benefits from what we learned, but maintains the upside of working together creatively around a table, for instance. You don't want that to go away completely.
And one thing that interests me tremendously is, what about the developers? Now, what are their thoughts and ideas?
You may have to ask them, but having a compelling story to tell about how you've adapted and how a new kind of flexibility about both residential spaces and shared spaces, common spaces, amenities, is going to be part of the scene now.
Anything going on in the development world that is COVID related? That
feels a little early to say.
Yes, I think it is a little early to say. People are keeping their fingers crossed, are forward looking about what the hybrid future is going to look like and how we transition back to what everybody is calling the new normal. What will that look like going forward? So still everybody's taking in information and data and figuring out what the future is going to look like.
What role has the AIA played in all of this? Have they taken positions?
I would say the AIA will encourage research by architects and other sort of fellow studiers of cities, of sociology, epidemiologists, and probably issue recommendations. But it feels, for most of us in the design biz, it feels early to make too many declarations, and maybe more urgent to say some of those things that were happening before COVID remain really important.
Yeah.
New York City tells us the spaces we share, common space, public space, streets, sidewalks, what happens on the ground floors of buildings today. These are things we'll all look at, and I think solutions will come from unexpected places and probably from young, excited design firms first.
You know, sorry, Stephen, to interrupt you. I wanted to add to that because I think the discussion of public space, everybody has mostly been, yikes, we need to stay apart from each other, and is the subway safe, and can I sit on the grass in the park far enough away from the next family? We really have been, during COVID, in cities like New York, celebrating and using our public space to an extent I have never seen before. I live up by Gracie Mansion, and the number of sort of freelance physical fitness trainers along the promenade that are outside with their weights and their ropes, and their clients come on the hour and they're out there in their spandex outfits. And last weekend there was a small ballet troupe practicing on the promenade. It was spectacular. I mean, it made you, it was one of those I love New York moments. We are outside using our outdoor spaces, turning parking spaces into restaurants. We New Yorkers are being, I think, very, very smart about how we use our public realm. And I hope we bring these lessons forward to when the health crisis is over and we realize that we can use our public spaces more creatively and more expansively.
Thank you for having joined us this evening. I'm Joanna Delson, an East Harlem resident and the Executive Vice President of CIVITAS. The pandemic has created an opportunity for those of us who've chosen to stay in New York to remake our city in a way that we want to see it move forward into the future. CIVITAS has been working on quality of life issues since 1981. I am a native New Yorker whose family has a history of community activist work in the city. I'm proud to be a part of CIVITAS, and we really appreciate your attendance at our virtual benefit. Please continue to support CIVITAS, and please also encourage your friends and family who love New York to join us. Thank you, and good night.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right to the very heart of it. New York, New York.